10 summers ago, I made my first trip to New York City, my first plane ride, my first cab ride, and I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know a soul, and I asked the taxi cab driver to drop me off in the middle of everything. So he dropped me off in Times Square. Anyway, I was completely awestruck.
Arriving in New York City with little more than the clothes on her back, Madonna's survival instincts kicked in.
And it wasn't long that very same day that she aligned herself with someone on the street and started spieling out her story. Hi, I've just arrived in town, I don't have any place to stay. Next thing she knew, she was in this guy's apartment, staying there, according to her, on the sofa. And this is basically how she lived by her wits in New York.
She lived in rat traps, survived by doing odd jobs. In November of 1978, Madonna auditioned for the highly respected Pearl Lang Dance Company.
One day she came in with a t-shirt torn all the way down the back and an enormous safety pin, it must have been a foot long, holding this together, and it was dragged off of one shoulder. And I looked at it and I thought, if she doesn't take the eye out of her partner, she'll do something one day.
Madonna was among several chosen that day, but neither a stint with the Lang Company nor a brief workshop with Alvin Ailey were enough to break her into the highly competitive New York dance world. Ironically, it was her offstage dancing that led to a career change. At a party at Pearl Lang's house, Madonna caught the eye of former boyfriend Norris Burroughs.
Dancing. She had leopard skin tights on, and she was kind of spinning like a dervish in the middle of the floor. And there were, you know, dancers all around, but it seemed, the sense was that she was in the center. And she was, you know, getting center stage, even though it was a room full of dancers.
Burroughs eventually introduced Madonna to his friends Dan and Ed Gilroy, who had a band called the Breakfast Club. Usually on the lookout for a place to stay, Madonna wound up moving in with the Gilroys into the old boarded-up synagogue they used as a rehearsal hall and living space. There they began to teach her how to play some of the instruments.
She learned how to play the guitar, she learned how to play some organ, and they put her behind the drums for a while, but eventually she wanted to sing. And Dan and Eddie both sang, so it was like sometimes she would get up and sing and they would sing, but eventually she wanted to sing more.
I think she kind of had found her, you know, her muse, her idiom. She'd found the best vessel for her drive, and it was being a rock performer. She used to play guitar, you know, and front the band. It was kind of like Band of Gypsies too, I called it. It was a power trio. And you know, she'd dance on the tabletops and break up things, and she didn't smash her guitar. She didn't do that, but she did pour champagne all over herself and her guitar on New Year's Eve, so that was close. That was her Peter Townshend, I think. It was her ode to The Who.
It was a promising start, but while it was music, it was hardly a music career. In the summer of 1979, Madonna was interested in any avenue to stardom. She sent these photos and a handwritten resume to amateur filmmaker Stephen Lewicki, who had placed a local magazine ad which said, "Wanted, woman for low-budget movie, no pay."
He had an idea for a film called A Certain Sacrifice. It was about, people climbing their way around New York and using each other. And Stephen Lewicki told me there was something about her photos that just made me want to meet her. I had to meet this girl. So he met her, they talked. He decided that she was absolutely the right kind of streetwise, overconfident person that he needed for this role in the film.
You can no longer be my slaves. I can no longer be your master. I have other things to do with my life now.
Co-star Russell Loam, seen here in one of the film's steamier scenes with Madonna, thought it strange that she used only one name. Stranger still that the novice actress had the air of a diva.
She was acting as if she had like a makeup person and a wardrobe person and a whole entourage, and there was no entourage. She was just this unknown but attractive young woman who seemed to command a great deal of attention.
Do you think for once that any lover of mine could be tamed? It's not possible. Right now they're like irritating hornets, and they want to sting.
Unfortunately, neither filmmaking nor music brought in much money. So in order to keep body and soul together, in a move that would later come back to haunt her, Madonna began baring her body for photographers and artists.
In those days, it was $7 an hour. I did a series of drawings of her based on the Sibyls from the Sistine ceiling. She was terrific. She was very good. She was very cooperative, very energetic, very enthusiastic about what she was doing.
But what Madonna was most enthusiastic about was music. In 1980, clashes with the Gilroy brothers over the number of songs she wanted to sing resulted in Madonna's leaving the Breakfast Club band and striking out on her own, determined to create her own band and her own sound. After her 1980 falling out with the Breakfast Club band, Madonna moved into a West Side Manhattan conglomeration of rehearsal studios called the Music Building. It would be survival mode once more, as she and drummer friend Stephen Bray took up residence in one of the studios.
I never ate out of a garbage can. I've read that several times. I never actually saw her going through the garbage, but it's possible, because we would borrow money to get a sandwich, and we would go and ask for, they'd give us some food at the deli next door to the studio, and say, you can pay us when you can.
Madonna spent the next year writing new songs and performing locally around New York with a small backup band. In 1981, Madonna met rock manager Camille Barbone, who took an interest, signed her up, and convinced her friend Bill Lamusio to give Madonna a shot. Speaking for the first time on camera, Lamusio says at first he wasn't interested.
She let me listen to the tape, and it wasn't anything impressive, but she wanted a place for her to try out her live act, and I agreed to let her do the opening for the band. Now, my band was the house band, and they were pretty popular. Out came Madonna and the band, and three break dancers that Camille picked up in Times Square, and proceeded to blow my band off the stage. She really was phenomenal. She was a great talent. You could see it immediately. And after 3 songs, she was getting called back for encores, and the band that I had was having a hard time getting on the stage. So from that point on, I asked Camille if she needed a partner on this, and she said yeah, and we started working together.
Madonna and her new backup group made a name for themselves on the local college circuit as a band called Emmy.
We had several names. Emmy, after M, Madonna, and I think we were Modern Dance when I first when I first moved there. We were the Millionaires at one point. There was a lot of names. When she decided to call the band Madonna, I threatened to quit, though. I thought it was too Catholic, for one thing, and just so maybe a little bit of ego coming out. I don't know. Just seemed like, what about the rest of us?
Madonna's popularity began to climb, attracting fans not only to her singing, but also to the second-hand street clothes she wore on stage.
Within the next 6 months, she had a contingent of kids dressing like her and following her from gig to gig. And this is somebody who didn't have a record, who wasn't on the radio.
Her managers were impressed with Madonna's success with live audiences, but attempts to impress record executives with her demo tape didn't go as well.
One of them even said she sounded on the tape like Minnie Mouse on helium. There was a lot of comments like that, that, oh, the tape was no good, she'll never go anywhere, but that was such garbage. All you had to do was come down and, take a look at her perform live, and that was it.
But eventually, word about Madonna's stage presence got around.
There were, I would say, no fewer than 5 labels at the dressing room door knocking. Literally. The heads of A&Rs were down there knocking on the door with business cards in their hands.
The prospect of success and how to manage it led to infighting. And in 1982, Madonna would once again shed old partners and set off in search of fame and fortune on her own. She survived once again by taking odd jobs around New York City, singing backup vocals for the likes of new wave dance artist Otto von Berner and even heavy metal icon Ozzy Osbourne. She appeared in a music video for a group called Conk. Producer Ed Steinberg remembers Madonna and her best friend Martin Burgoyne as good dancers but camera hogs.